Hello, I'm Adijan Ayandar and welcome to NexTech. I'm here in Nairobi, Kenya to see how this East African nation is looking to leapfrog past fossil fuels to a cleaner and more electric future.
It's rush hour in one of East Africa's largest cities. Nairobi, home to over 4 million people, is bustling with culture, commerce, and traffic. Getting around isn't always easy.
At last count, Nairobi had 1.2 million registered vehicles. That's a third of the country's total. So getting around can be difficult. But the longer-term challenge is how to move people around in the most cost-effective way while leaving the smallest carbon footprint.
Last year, Kenya imported more than $4.5 billion of petroleum products, making it one of the largest drainers of the country's foreign currency. 72% of it was used for ground transport alone. Like many worldwide, the Kenyan government wants to shake off the country's dependence on fossil fuels. One solution has been the increasing number of EV companies popping up.
The whole world is moving in this direction of electrification. I think we would certainly argue that it's these commercial use applications that are the lowest of the low-hanging fruit. That's where you're going to get the return on equity the fastest, simply because the cost of the vehicle, in the case of motorcycles for instance, the cost of the vehicle is less than the current fuel spend by a petrol motorcycle rider. So within a very short period, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're covering your initial extra investment in going electric.
But for a city like Nairobi, one of the most popular modes of transport is still on two wheels. There are over 2 million motorbikes, and the vast majority run on gasoline. Lumbi Muchui is the technical production manager at Rome, one of the country's leading electric motorbike companies. Despite more than a century of advancements, Henry Ford's moving assembly line model is still the most efficient way to assemble vehicles.
One of the big mottos here at Rome, especially in this factory, is electrifying Africa one vehicle at a time. Talk to me how these bikes in particular are actually going towards meeting that goal.
It all starts with the initial design ethos, right? At the very beginning, we are looking at what does someone in Kenya need a bike for, need any particular solution for. And with that approach, we're able to develop the exact persona. Who are you as an individual living in sub-Saharan Africa, and what kind of products do you need for your everyday needs? So at the very beginning, looking at the market itself, looking at what are the needs that are required by the people.
So an electric bike in Norway may not particularly fit well for an electric bike in East Africa.
Exactly.
Why?
And you know, the requirements are quite different, right? We're talking about Norway is a highly developed country, right? They have amazing roads, amazing infrastructure. The cost of living is significantly higher, but the income as well is much higher. We come to sub-Saharan Africa, we are talking about much more difficult terrains to handle. There isn't proper infrastructure that has been set in. So we're talking about something from ground aspect, right? I'm not going to buy this bike because I have extra income that I want something to use for the weekend. I'm using it because it's my daily source of income. That comes with different utility requirements, right? We're talking about how am I able to carry a sack of potatoes from the farm to the local market, not about how I ride to the nearest bar over the weekend. Those are two different requirements, and we can't design it for that particular purpose, but no one was. And that was our design ethos. At the very beginning, we were like, why isn't there a product that's designed for the African use case? The use case for someone who lives as their day and butter in here.
So if we're talking about Africa having not the most perfect roads, I'm assuming that the suspension is probably better than sort of comparable models outside of the continent. And because this is a utility vehicle, you're going to, in the example that you just gave, carrying a sack of potatoes, it's going to have places where you could tie your produce and actually bring it from point A to point B.
Yes. Yes, so the entire design and the suspension does play a big part for sure. But one key aspect is the frame as well, right? If you look at the products that are currently in the market right now, we're looking at the products that were designed in the 90s. Those are the kind of products that thrive well in this market. And the reason for that is they were designed for the Indian Chinese market for that time, that period of time. They were more robust, they were much stronger, they were built to survive in much more rugged terrains while being flexible enough to allow varying loads. That's the kind of design that we're talking about. Not only are we talking about suspension, we're talking about the frame, we're talking about things like the handlebars. How do you actually control and handle the bike? You know, having an upright sitting position on the bike is quite a good aspect of how you control the bike because of the environments that you find yourself in. We're talking about that, you know, at one point you'll be on the highway, kind of partially tucked in, trying to be as fast and aerodynamic as possible. And other times you're on dirt roads, trying to be flexible and having that commanding position over the bike. These are design constraints that, you know, we had to think about and be like, let's design something that exactly work for this exact market. And the suspension, for sure, you're gonna love it. It's amazing.
Well, I'm going to be trying out in just a bit, but in terms of the design aspect, you also have batteries that are interchangeable rather than batteries that are actually part of the bike. What was the reason behind that?
There are a few key aspects. My biggest one is a lower barrier of entry, right? Not everyone has that bandwidth to buy the ultra big size battery that would actually be optimal, right? If you're talking about an electric vehicle, you want to optimize your battery for maximum capacity. But at the same time, what that causes is the more battery you have, the higher the cost of the bike. So how do we lower that barrier of entry that someone going into this market, they don't have to invest into a big amount of money? So that means that there are various levels to it. If you buy our bike, you buy it with one battery. You can buy it with a second battery, you can buy it with 3 batteries, you can buy it with 4 batteries. Now the options are limitless, right? So be it that you're B2B or B2C, be it you're using it for your business, using it for your daily needs, that means that you have a platform from which to grow from. Most products don't give you that flexibility to be like, you know, right now I can only afford this, but because of my earnings in future, I want to be able to buy the second battery. So that's what we are offering our clients. The second aspect was our charging and the ergonomics of it. How we've designed is that you can charge your bike anywhere and everywhere. As long as there's a socket, you can carry our portable charger with you in our storage compartment and use that to charge your bike wherever you go. So if you make it a much bigger battery, you're limiting what exact locations I can charge this particular battery. So if I make it twice the size, we're talking about a 40 kilo battery. Are you willing to carry a 40 kilo battery up to your second floor apartment? The answer is definitely no. But 20 kilos seem to be like a sweet spot for many people. It's the right size and it's portable enough for many people to carry it to whichever preferred destination it is.
And do you guys actually have aspirations to actually maybe perhaps export Roam bikes outside of Kenya, but still within the Eastern African region?
Actually, we are targeting the sub-Saharan region. We feel that this market is underutilized. There are not enough products being pushed out that serve the needs for this particular market. And that's why we designed this particular bike. So right now, as we're looking at is, you know, in Nairobi and Kenya, we've been able to prove that, you know, the product works amazingly well. Clients love it, and we're getting more demands for growth outside of Kenya itself. We are looking into pilot programs in Rwanda, we're looking at pilot programs in even Nigeria and South Africa. So the potential for growth is immense. Our current limitation is how many bikes can we push out the production floor faster than they're being consumed by the market itself.
But talking about the bike wasn't enough. I needed a hands-on demonstration. This bike comes with two 20-kilogram batteries. After loading, it starts with just the turn of a switch. The LCD screen gives us all the info you need. The battery indicator is crucial, allowing you to choose how much power you need depending on your journey. So if you're carrying a heavy load or going uphill, the battery mode can change to suit every situation.
Here we go.
The specs are pretty impressive for an e-motorbike. It can carry up to 200 kilograms with a top speed of 60 kilometers an hour. And it can go from 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. Immediately you feel how smooth the ride is, not having the humming noise of an engine right under you. And you are not hit by the smell of gasoline. Price tag for this bike? $2,200, making it well within the reach of taxi drivers, delivery workers, and anyone who wants a cheaper option to get around. Each battery has a range of 70 kilometers, and you have two, so you can change it out while on the road. You can also stop at one of the many swap stations throughout Nairobi to get fresh batteries. All you need to do is pull out the old batteries and pass it on to the waiting staff. The swap stations also charge batteries, but instead of waiting, fully charged ones are waiting for the drivers. From start to finish, you are literally back to full capacity within seconds, way shorter than waiting at the gas pump. Once the charged batteries are in, you're off. Not everyone is willing to hop on a motorbike to weave through traffic. Students, workers, and families need to get around too. And for them, a bus has always been the most convenient and cheaper option. But there's a catch. Most buses are heavy polluters, and their decades of use often translates into rough and bumpy rides. You can't transport a city of 4 million people on motorbikes alone, no matter how green they are. You need a mass transport solution powered by an equally massive power source. And this electric bus could be an option. Basigo is one of Kenya's leading electric bus companies. This e-mobility startup aims to transform how mass transit works in Nairobi and the greater region. I took a ride with Marian Matui, a program manager over at Basigo, to get a better idea of where the company wants to go. So we are literally on the first domestically assembled electric bus in Kenya. You can tell by the plastic still on the seats. Yes. Tell us a little bit about how this bus came about.
So it's been a labor of love, I would say, and a long journey as Basigo to get it to this point. The journey began in December of 2023, where we received the kits from China and began assembling the bus at the Kenya Vehicle Manufacturers Assembling Plant in Thika. It took us 2 months actually, to build the buses and get them to completion. And yes, here we are today, seated in them, and it's amazing.
What's the range on a bus like this?
So for this size bus, we have a range of a minimum of 300 kilometers. That's per charge. And as we continue to think about our battery technology and thinking about even other OEMs, we could even potentially see the range increasing.
When you were designing a bus like this, in the process from the very beginning, did you sort of take into account things like the conditions the roads are in, things like that?
Yes. As Basigo, we are very, very keen on making sure that we design a bus that is for Kenya, or rather in Africa, depending on the context that we're in. And that's where we see other manufacturers fail, is because you think you can just bring in just a product that works in the US and bring it into Kenya. No. So we worked very closely with our partners in China to design this bus in a way that is suitable for the Kenyan passenger. And so we even think about even the ride height. Our roads here are not the smoothest, and our bumps are not the shortest. So we need a bus that is able to overcome those circumstances. And so in our design, we took that all into consideration.
And in terms of charging the battery, is the infrastructure there yet in terms of making this a very attractive option for companies and drivers?
That definitely takes time, and that's something we're currently working on. It comes hand in hand. If you're going to put EV buses on the road, you also need to develop a charging infrastructure. And as part of our roadmap, we definitely want to have those split all across the different roads, so that people are not worried about any range anxiety. These access to charging points. And so for us to scale up, we definitely need to have more charging infrastructure, and we are currently working on it.
Basigo's Chief Revenue Officer, Moses Ndeditu, feels the future of EV buses is closely intertwined with the economic advantages in terms of operating costs. Because for the vast majority of Kenyans, prices trump everything.
Here you have to sell, you can't sell the climate credentials to them. You must sell the economic value of switching from diesel to electric. So some things have worked in our favor. In the last 2 years, we have seen what diesel or fuel prices have done, and then that has actually made electric be a much more economical and giving them a higher return on investment. So once you can convince them on the economics of the vehicle, then the climate credentials becomes a bonus. But that's said and done. What then has happened, and those who have then taken the early adoption have seen passengers prefer the electric buses to the diesel buses, and we find that the electric buses fill up much faster. They're doing higher mileage, and hence they're making more money per seat or more money per kilometer, and that is actually driving the adoption.
If it's all about the economics, which I understand, do you feel that you're in a position where you actually have to provide multiple financing options for companies and drivers who are looking to sort of jump on the electric bus?
Indeed, and that's actually basically what our innovation is, because we realized traditional financing, which was just your normal asset finance, you put down a 20 or 30% down payment and finance the bus over the next 3 to 4 years, was not going to work with a very high value asset. And then remember, we have to build the infrastructure that our diesel counterparts or our ICE counterparts don't have to. So we have then to come up with innovative financing models like we do pay as you drive, which is a kilometer-based financing, and that makes it affordable for an operator to be able to acquire what is a high-value asset. But then we peg the financing based on the warranty of the battery, which is the most expensive part of the vehicle. So we are then providing financing over 8 years or 600,000 kilometers, whichever comes first. So on a day-to-day return on investment, on a year-to-year return on investment, the whole total cost of ownership, then they come out ahead on an electric bus.
You're on this beautifully paved road. Talk to me about some milestones. Where do you see your company as well as the sector compared to the traditional diesel buses?
2 years ago, we had 2 buses, and those were our pilot buses. A year ago, we then added another 17 buses, and then we went into a commercial phase. Now we are doing local assembly. That gives us an opportunity to ramp up production, to be able to deliver more buses. By the end of this year, we are going to have at least 120 buses running. But that's just a drop in the ocean, because as I'm sitting here, I have 500 orders from operators who require buses. So therefore, we are on this accelerated scale up, and we are doing this hop, skip and jump through technology. So every year we are moving much faster. So next year we expect to deliver another maybe 500 buses. But by 2026 we need to be in a position to have 1,000 buses running in Nairobi with the prerequisite infrastructure available for them to charge. And that infrastructure is also going to be available for the other electric vehicles that are going to come into this market.
Kenya's e-mobility revolution is having a positive effect on what matters most to the average person, their wallets. And it's not just in transport where fossil fuels are being pushed aside. Solar Panda believes electricity is a right everyone should have access to. Their products are catered to households who aren't connected to an electricity grid. In their kits, everything is included: the solar panels, the cables, lighting, a battery storage control unit, and a television. Imported from China, the final assembly steps and packaging take place here, where quality control and repairs are also made. One of the key services Solar Panda offers is they deliver the full solar kits directly to customers. To see this firsthand, I tagged along with one of the deliveries to see who is actually purchasing these kits and how much of a change they're bringing. After arriving at his home about 40 kilometers outside of Nairobi, the service team gets right to work. First, they must install the solar panels on the roof for optimum coverage. After securing the panels, cables are run back into the house to connect the main control unit, which has a fast-charging, long-lasting battery. This main control unit is the heart and brain of this mini solar network and will power everything in the home. Ezekiel, who works in Nairobi but chooses to live outside the bustling urban center, was eager for a television to be installed for his children to watch.
That's good. So appreciative that within the shortest time that I give a notification that I want to be connected, the idea is less than 24 hours. Well, my boys always have wanted to come. They stay in Nakuru, and like football a lot, I was worried, how am I going to explain to them? No TV. But Solar Panda happened.
But are these mini solar kits a real mass market option for those looking for power outside of the grid? I put that question directly to one of Solar Panel's processing managers.
Yes, our business model is to provide affordable solar home systems to rural African communities. There was a big gap because affording electricity from the grid is quite expensive, and these people will otherwise have no source of lighting. So Solar Panda came up with this model so that on a loan-to-own basis, these individuals can own their own lighting system, their own solar lighting system after a few years of the loan, after they paid off the loan.
Solar Panda is also playing an important role in terms of actually getting people away from traditional sources of energy like lighting kerosene and then moving over onto renewable energies, and that's an important part of the company as well.
Yes. Our people will actually, instead of using the solar lighting, they'll have to use kerosene, and that can affect their lungs and also their eyes because of the fumes. And with solar, it's clean, yeah, and it's affordable. And you'll find that traditional, they'll have maybe some other solar units that are not so endurable. Solar Panda products are quite efficient, and we are based here, and our customers always have product support in case of anything. Yeah, so eliminating the fossil fuels, we see ourselves as a provider of clean solar energy to the rural African community.
Now the big question with any new technology or when you're trying to implement it is how scalable it is. What does the picture look like here?
Yeah, so for now, we'd like to venture into many of the rural parts of Kenya. There's still a lot to be done. There are places where there's no grid. There's still places where we haven't access due to road networks. We'd like to go in there and also go into other countries in Africa. Yeah, so countries that also don't have, Kenya is quite advanced compared to other countries in Africa, but there are countries where even the normal grid isn't so accessible to the communities, and we see ourselves being a good player, and we can go and get these communities to access lighting.
What's really interesting about the model that you provide Kenyans, especially in rural areas, with some of the services that you provide, is it's not just the solar panel, but you're also providing a very important piece of technology, like a television that actually comes with this set, and that's more of an incentive for people to actually subscribe to your service.
Yes, we've seen that there's been a revolution ever since COVID. People want to stay informed of what's happening in the world. People want to stay informed of what's happening in their country, and so television is one good way for that. We have a very good networking system in Kenya for the television stations, and we've seen more people wanting televisions, solar-powered televisions. So they get the lighting, they get the televisions. We also have radios for the people who can't afford televisions, so that they can still get informed. Yeah.
Where is this technology in Kenya in 10 years' time?
In 10 years' time, we see ourselves going bigger, providing systems that can even charge their laptops, to charge several phones, to help them have ways of making money using the energy. Some people will even put a charging booth so that people can come in and charge their phones. We see ourselves having bigger TVs for people who own restaurants, for people who own even schools, for churches, and any entertainment place. They'll have bigger units, and also we also see ourselves venturing into providing just anything that productive use of solar, so they can earn money while using the solar technology, not just homes, but also to make money using solar.
Throughout my time here in Kenya, there's been a phrase I keep running into: powering Africa's electric future one product at a time. Whether it's ditching diesel for batteries or relying on the sun instead of the state grid, more and more Kenyans are looking towards renewable energy and away from the fossil fuels that have powered the West's industrialization at enormous cost. Although getting to this electric future won't be easy, it certainly is viable. Thanks for joining me here on NexTech. I'm Adija Layanda from Nairobi, Kenya, and we'll see you next time.